So this coming up Thursday, there is a lottery for the New York Marathon, and I'm in that. I'm more than likely not going to get in. We've had people in the past in the podcast talk about the London Marathon, and lottery for that, more than likely not going to get in. And there's different ways of seeing different parts of the world, big cities, and it's hard to get into Berlin and Chicago and Boston and everything else. But one of the bigger cities that has unbelievable history to it is Rome, and the Rome Marathon is, well, I don't know. I have no idea how the Rome Marathon is. Eric has no idea how the Rome Marathon is, but our next guest on the Any Given Runday podcast knows exactly how it is because she did it last week. Paddy's weekend seems a great place to go to for the marathon. Alanna Dunlea, how are we getting on?
Great now, Sean and Eric. Thanks so much for having me today. Delighted to be here. Great
So
intro.
Alana, you read, what did you say? Great intro.
Thank
I'll
you
give you
very,
two.
thank you,
Yeah.
Alanna.
He
No,
managed
had enough of this.
it.
That's gimmick infringement there now. So Alana, you reached out to us in the build up to the marathon. You kind of sold
Yeah,
yourself short here by reaching out to us because then you
yeah.
became a target for the podcast or give us €1 million. But you asked about the Rome Marathon and you were like, have you any tips or does anyone know anything about the Rome Marathon? And we went, no, but you can tell us all about it afterwards.
Yeah, I got completely lured in. Like I wrote to you, oblivious, thinking, "Oh, great! The two lads now they might have some information for me." And in fairness, you threw it up on your story, and you got me some good tips going into it. And afterwards, you followed up, and can't quite believe I'm here today now. So major imposter syndrome, but it's it's definitely mad.
So before we get to Rome, how did your
Yeah.
journey of running start?
Yeah, so I suppose like I've always been kind of fit. I've played basketball my whole life. And like where I grew up, there used to be like a little 3K loop that I would just run. Um, and then I remember in 2019, myself and my friend we signed up for a half marathon in Clonakilty. Um, and we loved that. But like I remember finishing that, and my first thing was like, geez, like I'd never do a full. Like it's so hard. But a full was like always on my bucket list. Like it's something I was like, one day I will do a full marathon. And then my sister was training for Paris last year. I remember saying, "Oh my God, that's class!" And my boyfriend at the time, or my boyfriend now, but at the time he was like,
Before you
he was
became a
like,
celebrity, yeah, that fella.
yeah, yeah. Before then, him. He was like, "Why don't you like sign up to one?" And then I was just like, "Right, Cork Marathon's coming up in June. I'll run if I can run 3 times a week for 2 weeks. Then I know I'm committed and I'll maintain that." And within like 1 week, I'd signed up to Cork. Ran Cork, and like 5 days later, I think I got like a transfer place for Dublin, like one of those like refund lottery windows. Got that place, and before I'd even ran Dublin, then I'd signed up to Rome. So like, there's catching the bug, and then there's running 3 marathons in 10 months. So it's a bit crazy, but yeah, I've loved it, and happy now that I've no marathon booked in right now. But it just went from one thing to the other really because I just loved every single marathon and each one is so different. So
In the lead up to Cork with thinking the half marathon, and I went through the exact same thing when I got through that going, oh my God, how am I going to double that distance? When
yeah.
you were training leading up and getting the long miles up to it, were you of the mindset of like, this is so cool, I'm about to do the Cork marathon, or are you like, this is the last marathon I'm ever going to do? Like, did you get that bug straight away in that training?
Yeah, like I remember, do you know, like with a when you get to a half and then you're like, right, with Cork full training. Like once I hit the like 21 distance, I was like, right, I'm only entering into like uncharted territory here. I'm
Hmm.
going up in kilometers. Like every week was such a like win. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I ran 23 this weekend. I can't believe I ran 25 this weekend. And I think that's like what kind of kept me going for Cork. And then when I finished Cork, I remember saying, I will never do another marathon. It was last summer, so it was the really hot day.
Yeah,
I had
that
heat
moment
stroke at
yourself.
the end, and I was like delirious. And I remember saying I loved it, but I was like, that was so much harder than I've ever imagined it would be. Because I kind of thought, like a lot of people, I kind of think I'm invincible when it comes to like something like that I'd never be affected. Like I'd find it hard, but I wouldn't be like nearly dying after it. And then in the build up, I wasn't thinking ahead in the build up. I wasn't like, oh, I want to do another. I was like, let's see how Cork goes. And then it was more afterwards. I completely forgot about pain of it, and I just wanted to do another.
There's something about being like I had the naivety about it as well. I think for lack of a better word, when you do sports and like I played football and stuff, and you're like, I run, 90 minutes playing football. Surely at a slower pace, having to chase
Yeah.
after something, I can run all day because I was never tested to run all day. But we're coming to a marathon that happens, and that I was down there with Eric that day. Eric will be able to tell you more than I am. That the heat that day.
Oh,
It seemed unbearable. Like I was cutting
yeah.
through. I think it was Cork Hospital going from I can't remember. It was like the 21K, the 21 mile to 24 miles, something like that. And even that little jog through there, I was like, I'm glad I'm not racing that day. But Eric, you
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, it wasn't a good day, and definitely a baptism of fire. I'd say it was a stark contrast then from going from that sun to the rain,
Yeah.
the rare rain that we
Mm.
called it was going to. Well, Sean definitely called it was going to happen. The rare rain of Dublin. How did you find coming from Cork into
Yeah.
Dublin and keeping that consistency?
I think like that I kind of gave myself, I had lots of like holidays last summer, and I wanted to take like a break after Cork and just tip away with like 5Ks. I don't know if that's like the best advice, but that's what I did. I enjoyed my summer. And then I said what it was for Cork with me was, do you know when you do such a hot marathon, I felt like I didn't enjoy the finish in the sense of like I got my medal and I was like, I just want to sit down. I was like, just get me to the
Yeah.
ground. And for Dublin, I was like, I'd love to like actually like finish strong, like where like I'm not under like severe heat pressure, and I'm not like nearly just about making it to the finish line. So I think that drove me to kind of say, right, like I knew I did my best in Cork, and I think I finished Cork in like it was a 3:44, and I was like really
Brilliant.
surprised at that for myself, let's say. But I knew I didn't care about the time for Dublin. I just wanted to like finish being like feeling strong
Intact.
and
Yeah.
enjoying it intact, and I did, and I felt like that was just like brilliant for me to like enjoy every moment. And I got to the finish line, and I wasn't like I didn't need to sit down. I just quite literally like embraced it
Went
all
straight
and
to the
enjoyed
dance
it.
floor.
Yeah, yeah. I remember it's like afterwards my boyfriend met me, and he was
My
like pissed
boyfriend at the
and like
time.
yeah, my
Boyfriend.
boyfriend. He met me, and he was like nearly pale and like so tired, and like he's like, geez, like that was like someone going following you around the course, and I was there nearly like just jumping for joy. Like I was so happy to
Brilliant.
have finished it.
Alana, your first litmus test before we get talking about Rome and Europeans in Rome. How does Cork and Dublin Marathon compare to each other? Which one's better?
Whoa, Sean.
I
That
went
is
straight in with it. I
hard.
went straight in with it.
Oh.
I was afraid you were going to ask me this because like I'm a proud Cork person, like it's Cork and not Cork.
I thought
But,
that.
but no, like it's so hard because you know everyone says your first marathon is like their best marathon.
Hmm.
Dublin, I shouldn't say this, but Dublin was better for me because I just loved it. Like I just thought Dublin was the support in Dublin. Like I was blown away by like each little town or village that you pass through. Like such a different vibe in every place. That like there's so much music and like so many strangers cheering your name on, and like people just giving you high fives. And oh, I thought Dublin was unbelievable, and Cork is unreal too. Like I loved both of them, and I do them both again. But I think Dublin because like it's not scorching weather. There was a lot of rain at the end of Dublin, I remember, but it didn't take from it. Like it was Dublin was unreal. So maybe I'd say Dublin has a slight edge, but I loved Cork too.
Did
You're such
Cork
a
give you a bit
compliment
of
now.
did Cork give you like I'm assuming going around the course of Cork you would have known people from Cork before because we've had people and the
Yeah,
reason I asked this is because we have people in the podcast that have done Berlin and London and some people like they're just incredible marathons but some miss the familiarity of the streets and stuff. And I'm not saying you
yeah,
don't know Dublin, but just knowing that more people and stuff in Cork. Uh,
yeah.
would that play a part in that when we get on to Rome and stuff? Does that play a part in how you run the marathon, or is it just an
It,
experience that
it
yourself?
it definitely does because I think like when you're running a marathon in a place that you don't know, like I wouldn't know all the streets in Dublin that well, or obviously Rome, but it's harder to remember it afterwards. And when you're doing it, you're kind of like for Cork, like it's like my everyday places that I see and that I know, and like you think of memories of like oh I was here doing that and that like kind of like distraction from actually running really helps. And like I knew where my family were going to be, and like, you know, you're aiming to get to that. I knew my friends were going to be there, and it definitely helps. I really like knowing where I am doing a marathon, because sometimes it kind of blurs as one afterwards. You're like, oh, where is that? And yeah, same at Rome, as we'll get onto. But I had been to Rome before, so like those streets, some of them were familiar, but not all. Um, so yeah, it does help definitely.
Moving on to Rome. Before we get started in Rome, actually, just in case I butchered the intro again, is it hard to get into the Rome Marathon? I'm right in saying it's not hard to get in.
No, that's definitely a positive with it. There's no lottery, like you literally just sign up. I think you could have signed up even like the week before the marathon,
Oh
so
wow!
it's so easy to get into. Yeah.
And you went over a few friends to that, right?
Yeah, it was so my dad was originally supposed to be running in it, but he got injured in the build up, so he just togged out and ran like I think a half in the end. And then my
Right.
sister's boyfriend was running as well, and another kind of family friend. So there was a little crew of us.
I love that. My dad got injured. He just did half.
Yeah, he's a madman. Him, like he's be doing his Ironmans and all the triathlon and all that. So he decided to tog out and run half.
Like you definitely didn't pick it up off the ground anyway. It was there waiting for you to pick up the mantle.
Yeah, waiting. He's only delighted whenever we do enter these, so it's quite funny.
What is the atmosphere like in Rome in the lead up, the
Oh,
expo and different things like that? Is it a different
oh
animal to
yeah.
Cork, Dublin?
Yeah, like comparing it to Cork and Dublin, the expo's a lot bigger. Like it's this huge kind of conference hall. It's probably about 20, 30 minutes out of the city, so you'd be getting a taxi to it. And it's kind of run over a couple of different levels. Like so there's different floors. There's like the main kind of expo area where you have like the stage and different kind of like little stalls and walls to sign and all that. And then there's kind of like even side rooms with like other stalls and funny kind of props and stuff to take photos with and all that. And there was such a buzz there. There was like music outside, big queues getting in, but like they went quite fast. A lot of hustle and bustle. And then around the city itself, there's a lovely area in Rome, like even just outside of the marathon, called Trastevere. I could be butchering that pronunciation, but like
Best
we went
Cork
there.
Italian accent we've ever heard.
That is shocking. Like we could like tweak out my Cork accent here.
The editor's not that good.
Yeah, there's no saving that. Be like the word like will be just repeated 100 times. But yeah, Trastevere or Trastevere, I don't know which it is. That was a lovely area that we like went to the night before, and like when you go to the expo, you get like all your stuff's in a backpack. And like you could see so many people are running the marathon, and like most people are drinking water. Like people with us who weren't running, they were able to have their few drinks. And there was some buzz around that area. That was really good. And yeah, then like the day itself, the atmosphere was unreal. Like it was incredible.
I'm surprised you haven't asked this yet, Eric, about the expo. What was the goodie bag like?
Yeah, I was thinking of that. So goodie bag. So do you know in like Cork you got like a paper bag, in Dublin you got a plastic duffel kind of bag. In Rome you get a backpack. Like it's really impressive, I thought. And
Wow.
yeah, like it's a
Oh
full
my
on.
money.
Yeah, like it's good value for money that way. Like it's a lovely navy backpack, and that's what you use for your bag deposit. And in that we got a couple of gels, we got like toe protectors, blister plasters, like washing detergent for sports gear, protein drink, a couple of little bits. I thought it was really good. And there was a good few freebies at the event as well, like a snood kind of bandana thing. I think we actually got dog treats. I don't know, so random, but
They're high in
there's some
protein.
random stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dogs can run a marathon next.
Well, that sounds a hell of a lot better than the 2 cans of Carlsberg Zero that sat in my fridge for 2 years after a Dublin marathon.
Yeah, our Cork was like flax seeds and lint balls or something like that.
Cork and Dublin, take note.
Yeah, take note.
You're in Rome, you're about to do a marathon, and carb loading is a thing that is key for maintaining your energy. How did you find, particularly in I don't want to pronounce it to outdo your lovely Cork accent, in that area in Rome, it's a beautiful like foodie place, and that's what
Yeah.
it is, restaurants and food. how did you find one controlling yourself the night before, or did you control yourself with the food in Rome?
Yeah, so this might be a sin because I was calling Rome carb heaven. Like I've entered carb heaven the day before. I was like, this is ideal. Like I'm just gonna eat pizza, pasta, pizza, pasta.
Hmm.
I actually think I didn't eat enough because I think I was like kind of nearly distracted from like the expo and like me and my sister lives in Rome actually, I should say that. So we like went out for coffee that morning and their breakfasts are very like croissants and kind of pastries. So like if you do, I think I brought bagels with me, so I think I had a bagel as well. And then at the expo, like you could end up spending a bit like long at the expo where you might
Hmm.
delay eating. So I think that happened to me. So like bring snacks if you are going again, or just be aware. Well, most people probably would. And then there was like little food vans as well there at the expo, so that was really handy because I remember I needed food at that point. And then that night had pasta. Um, I would say like I was in carb heaven, but I don't think I ate enough carbs. It's just so bad.
Forgot to take advantage of it. But look, it's
Yeah.
one of those lessons as well for you and for those who are listening
Mm.
of going to something abroad, and it's reminding yourself through all the excitement that there's still a job to be done. You still have to make
Yeah,
sure you're taking on the fuel. And it's really,
100%.
really good. So the day of the race itself, talk us through the preparation. Did you forget anything?
I didn't. I forgot sun cream, but I wasn't. I wasn't anticipating the temperatures that were there in the end. Um, no, I think I brought everything. I would probably tell people to bring porridge with them if they eat porridge before, because we got like the last bag of porridge in the shop that was local to my sister's. But yeah, didn't forget anything. I had everything, and the morning went really smoothly. Like I remember waking up feeling not even nervous. I was just excited. Ate my breakfast, got ready. Myself and Calvin, my sister's boyfriend, we went, got to the start line, no bother. There is a bit of like I suppose depending where you're staying, there's different ways that you can get to the start line. But for anyone going, there's like a metro line that will take you pretty much one stop away from the start line area. So it's about a 15-minute walk from there. Or if you're just staying in the city centre of Rome, you can't really go too far wrong. You'll be within walking distance. But yeah, sun cream. Looking back, I'm like, I probably should have had sun cream because I've like really funny tan lines now.
And the start line itself, it's the Colosseum, isn't it?
Yeah, so they changed the route this year. I
Wow.
think last year it was like you ran away from the Colosseum, I think, but you started around there. And oh my God, you run towards the Colosseum and you finish running towards the Colosseum. Like you run fully around it.
Wow.
It was like, it was definitely one of the best things I've ever experienced. Like just like the start line itself was incredible. So there was like live saxophone player. There was like this big kind of corporate box with all like politicians and stuff, and then like up on the top there was like saxophone player like playing such good tunes, and like I had goosebumps. Like I was like, this is unbelievable, and I actually had like tears in my eyes because like I was like, I can't believe I'm here. And like starting off, they like blow out kind of like streamers, is that what you call it, or confetti?
Yeah.
And Viva La Vida was playing by Coldplay, and you were just running towards the Colosseum with that playing, and
Class.
like it
Ah,
was just
wow.
surreal, is the only word. And I don't think I'll ever have a start line experience like
There,
that
there's
in a
no
marathon.
there's no wave starts and nothing. It's just everyone starts the same
There
time and away you go.
There are wave starts,
Oh,
and
okay.
there's four different starts. Actually, there's a wheelchair user start first, and then 5 minutes after that is wave A, and then four waves 5 minutes apart. And that's based on your previous marathon time. So, funnily enough, I was in the first wave, and that was at 8:30, and then each way. So, there was kind of like a what you'd call a pre-start area or like a transfer area, and then the start line area. And they left each wave going to the start line area as they were like due to start. So everyone else got held back until you were able to go in. So it's definitely a bit chaotic at that the transfer kind of start area side because it's like is it like 18,000 people run it and like
Oh, wow.
everyone's in one, so it's not like Dublin where you have different streets being used to hold the different waves. It's like everyone in the one area, narrow enough street. So yeah,
There's a double rep listening going, that's something we do better.
Yeah. Check. Yeah, I will say, like it's probably just due to the street that they use in Rome, but yeah,
But the
for Dublin, it's
Colosseum,
definitely, yeah, oh, it's like
Mary Square ain't
unreal.
got nothing on the Colosseum.
No,
Like,
no, it doesn't. And it's funny because, like, I said to my family afterwards, I was like, I felt like a gladiator going off to war. Because, like, you were kind of just being held, and then, like, there's all these people in the box waving down at you, and it was so funny. But the
class.
start, like, I will say, the start was so fast, like, faster than any start I've been on. Like, I would say you can take in the Colosseum, but you can't because you need to watch where you're going. There was people fell in the first like 500 meters, I think, and the pacer fell. So
Oh
watch your
wow.
feet, watch your footing, and yeah, like it is quick. Like I was surprised.
Is that because how fast is that, or how you're mostly bunched up, or
I think it's a narrow enough road for the. Oh, it's not that narrow either when you think of a road as a road, but it was fast. I don't know, was it because I was in the first wave and like people are probably naturally a bit faster in that wave, but I haven't experienced a start as fast as that before. Um, you are very bunched up at the start. It took about only like a kilometre or two for that to thin out, but you
Hmm.
were at the
Yeah,
start
well, I
together.
suppose you're in the first wave of people who are going to run us 2 hour 15, you know, a
Yeah,
2 hour 30 all the
yeah,
way down. So that's a broad
it
range
is.
of people, and
It
they're all trying to jostle to get out of the wave, you
yeah,
know, so they can settle into the rhythm. So
definitely.
yeah,
And what I
probably
would say is there is loads of room at the starting area, like where you can hold back yourself and wait for them to all take off. So you can do that if that suits you better.
yeah, I probably would if you know what time you're going for, to just
Yeah,
stay away from the crazies, because you're in a fast paced group. You're in
yeah.
the first one, but
yeah, but the
really.
Coldplay song is halfway over then at that stage where you get started.
You've got another 4 hours.
You
You
might
can
get
put
the
on
atmosphere
repeat.
into you. Yeah,
You could nearly just stay at the start line, not start, just listen to the
I would
Coldplay
be
song.
petrified of sprinting that start and a kilometer down the road going, well, there's my 1K PB ever, and then I'm just goose for the next 41K.
Yeah, that wasn't fair off what happened to me, no.
So was the race itself like the big red bus tour, except you were running it, or did it bring you around
Yeah.
other landmarks, or did it head away from the city, or what way does it look?
Yeah, like the route itself is incredible. Like it's just like iconic. Like it's so like I say it's both bit of both. Like you do pass through a lot of tourist points, and you also go on to like the outskirts of the city. Joe, it's like any other marathon in some parts where you're just running by residential areas, rivers, bridges, the works. So the route itself, you start at the Colosseum, you pass through along it. You pass through like Castle Sant'Angelo. Um, Oh, actually, at one point I just looked up and I was running towards St. Peter's Basilica, like the Vatican, and that was incredible because like it just felt like a dream. Like I was just like, what the hell? Like how am I running towards the Vatican? And it was just crazy. Like so there was that. There was a lot of like touristy squares. You know, like I don't know if you've been to Rome, but like Piazza Navona, the Spanish Steps. What else was there? There was the Olympic Village. We kind of like that was nearly the furthest point out that you go to. That's very quiet. It's not touristy at all, but it's kind of a completely different side of Rome, like that I had never seen before. So I thought that was really cool. And Piazza di Popolo as well. That was class because it was like that's a huge square and they had it set up so that the runners run like a circle around the square and it's lined with people the whole way and it was so cool that part. And then you end up back at the Colosseum. But for a lot of it you are just running on normal roads that are residential and not like any tourist sites. There's if you actually look at the Rome Marathon website, there's a whole list of all the sites that you pass through. Some of them I hadn't even heard of. Um, but like just the architecture of buildings around you. Like I at one point I was struggling and I was like, Lana, look around you. I was like, just look at the building, look at the river, look at the trees, and like it is like getting a little city pass for the day. Just enduring a bit of hardship along the way.
You're
And how
embracing the
was
real city.
Yeah,
sorry, sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead, Eric. How was the
Yeah, so how was the run itself? I suppose the excitement
Yeah.
of it, the tour of it. how did you find the actual day itself? How did you find the crowds?
Yeah,
Better than
so
Cork?
the crowd. No, I can't like say anything bad about Cork now. I'll be never allowed to enter it again. No, the crowds are really good. I like it's funny because going into it, I didn't know what the crowd sport would be like because when you do Cork and Dublin, it's such a like local crowd. Everyone cheers for everyone. It's like it's just so special in Ireland, like running an Irish marathon. And then wasn't sure how it would be abroad, and I would say the crowd support was really good. Like there was definitely patches with no support, like any marathon, and there was definitely patches with support that people are more so waiting for their own people. They're not cheering for everyone in general. And then there's certain patches that are like really, really good, where it's really crowded, like Dublin or Cork, where everyone's cheering for you. And I would say that there's also just parts where you're just running past tourist streets that, like one time I looked, I was like, oh, is that a crowd? And then I was like, oh, it's just people queuing for Gucci. Like it's just tourists going about their day as they should. So you will be just like running past normal people doing their like tourist bits as well. And then the finish line and start line, I will say this year, I think they had like roadworks or something going on towards that. So there was no crowd at the start or the finish, like last 500 meters. But I think that was possibly like an exception this year. Where other years I think they'll be able to have people along there.
You mentioned tourist streets and stuff there. There's a part of it where you run along cobblestones. Is that as bad as
Yeah.
it sounds?
No, it's not as bad as it sounds at all. Now going into the race, I was like, oh God, cobblestones, like that'll slow me down. Like I had all these thoughts, and on the day it didn't matter at all. I think there's about 6 kilometers of cobblestones in total. A lot of it's towards the end, and they're fine. Like if anything, you do have to watch where you're going because you don't want to trip or anything like that. But if anything, it kind of distracted me because I was like, right, looking at the cobblestones, right, get through this patch and keep going. So, I wouldn't let it worry you beforehand. Just know that they're there, and watch your steps definitely when you're on them.
Would you call it a flat marathon compared to yeah?
Yeah, yeah. There's compared to Cork and Dublin, it's flatter definitely. There's a hill at the start. Actually, do you know when you're going around the Colosseum, that's a hill. I didn't even realize it until I was on it. I was like, geez, that's the start. And then you come downhill, and there's a couple of pulls, but I wouldn't really. There was no like heartbreak hill, what I would call it. And then at the end, I think at 41-ish kilometers, there's that hill going back up, and that was tough, all right. But like you're so close to finish that, like it's actually
Yeah.
grand. I would say it is really flat compared to Cork and Dublin.
So you finish, and Eric's big question now, compared to Cork, because Cork was pretty poor. He knows where I'm going
Mm.
with this. The
How
medal.
good was it? How
The
good was
medal.
it?
I love the medal. I actually have it here.
Yeah, look
Oh
at
wow!
It's unreal. So it's like the
that.
Colosseum, and it's a navy. For anyone who can't see, obviously on the podcast, it's a navy ribbon and literally a gold Colosseum. It's stunning.
Oh my God.
I
That is
think
how
it's
a
class.
medal is done right in a city.
Yeah,
The
100%.
Bula bus on the medal. Bula bus on the medal. That is
Yeah,
class.
it's unreal. Yeah, I loved it. And the finisher T-shirt is the same. It's like navy with
Oh,
Colosseum.
the Colosseum on it.
Yeah,
Oh my God, that
or
is
Yeah.
so good.
it's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa as well if you go that way.
After a few drinks that night, wearing
After a
a
few
lean
drinks that night.
Yeah, then it
Aperol
is.
spritz, I'd be like that with that t-shirt. All right.
Yeah, so it's really, I think it's a really good medal. Like compared to Cork again, like that was last year's medal was a
I
bit
think I
sad.
used it this Christmas to get the fire going. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Oh, that's a lie. I wasn't at home at Christmas, but next year.
So
So,
funny.
but that is how a city marathon takes advantage of where it is and what it means to people, and
Yeah,
what
I
people
think
look
they,
for in it. It's
yeah, like I think
class.
they got the branding like spot on, like even starting and finishing at the Colosseum and then the medals all about the Colosseum, like it's they've done it right and they've done it
Yeah,
well.
this has been a couple of thousand years in the making, but it's
Yeah.
finally. But overall, then, when you like, we can talk about your race in detail, but this is, I
Yeah,
suppose, the beauty of this is to give the next person like you who wants to do Rome an
yeah,
insight into what they're looking at. When you cross the finish line, what's it like finishing
yeah.
in Rome? Or what's the
Oh,
after?
I was so happy finishing. Like when you finish, you're in that kind of what was the start area, and it's like then the finisher area. And I just remember finishing, and I was just so happy with myself. Like I was just thrilled to finish and to have finished where I wasn't like dying either. Because I forgot, I don't know if I said that, but the heat on the day was really, really hot that day. I don't think it was really planned to be, but it was. So when you finish, like there was medical stations, there was, you get your medal, you get your there was actually massages. People were queuing up for massages, and you get some food. And then there's the bag deposit lorries. If you dropped a bag, they're all along that road as well. And then you can't actually directly get your family at that point. You have to continue on out of the finisher area, and then there's a square there, Piazza Venezia, and it's like this gorgeous square with like big buildings, and all your family will be there then. So it could be hard to get your family in the sense of there's so much people around, but it was grand for me anyway. In the end, we found everyone easily enough. And then afterwards, like it's really good. Like you've just obviously got so many pubs, restaurants to go to. It was Paddy's Day as well, so there was like Irish pubs and in Rome, which were really good. And we just went to a restaurant nearby and got a bit of food and had a drink. And yeah, like if you want to go out and stay out, there was like a marathon party that night. I think that the event organized. We didn't go to that now, but that's there. And yeah, like you've every option really. Like you can
Was it
stay out.
hard getting was it hard getting to pubs and restaurants? Like Dublin was pretty hard afterwards with that
Yeah,
the long walk, stuff like that. They found hard getting it. Was the same in Rome?
it actually wasn't. Now we did go first to an Irish pub, but we couldn't get in there. And then we went to just a restaurant, like literally really near the finisher area, and we got in no problem and got a table. So it was actually okay. Like I think there's so many options that you can keep going, and you'll find somewhere that'll take you.
And looking at it as a whole, obviously Paddy's Day, Paddy's weekend,
Mm,
a lot of your training probably would have taken you through Christmas. You'd come off the Dublin
yeah,
Marathon. How did you find having a Rome Marathon? So Paddy's
yeah.
weekend, 12 weeks into the year. How did you find having that
Mm-hmm.
as a goal for your year ahead?
Yeah, like I think it comes at a good time of year in a way, because I know for someone I knew doing it, they trained before Christmas, took Christmas off, and then kind of hit into a hard 11-week training block in January. For me, I took all of Christmas off and November off after Dublin, and then I think I went skiing start of January, and I said to myself, right, if I'm not injured, I'll drive into a hard 10 weeks here. And I gave myself 10 weeks, and I thought it was really good because it comes in at a time, January and February, where, it's so good to have something to look forward to train for, to get you out on the dark mornings and the dark evenings. And I thought it was a great time of year. However,
Mhm.
as an Irish person, you're training in the cold, the wind, the dark, and the rain. And then you go over to Rome and it's 20 degrees on the day, and you're just not acclimatized like it. It's hard if the weather's good in Rome.
So layer up for the winter training, put on the old black
Yeah,
sack every now and again, and make sure
yeah,
it's a
do it.
sweaty training session. Do you know, I
Yeah.
actually did that once when we were training for the Madrid Marathon. We started this podcast, and Sean called me a fucking idiot.
I did, I did.
Well, that's the advice we should be giving for Rome Marathon next year now. So.
Running around the Phoenix Park with a black sack and like 4 or 5 different coats on him. Just in
Oh,
his
that's
own
so
world,
funny.
bopping to his own songs, bit of Tay playing, and he just loving life, and everyone looking like a fucking idiot.
A warm fucking idiot.
You'd have to
But
lead it next year, Eric.
yeah, look, we can definitely try and factor it in because it does sound like one of those that we have to hit before it becomes a lottery. We have to hit
Mm.
before it becomes
Do.
so big and popular that
Oh, do
you're
like
not going to be able to do it. Like nobody thought Dublin was going to become
yeah,
like like an escape room just to try and get into the bloody thing.
I
But
know.
It sounds like an absolutely fantastic run. When you look back
Yeah.
at it all, the weekend, I suppose one thing people want to know is Rome is known as an expensive city.
Hmm.
You had family there, but
Yeah.
from being there, how do you think, what kind of budget would people need if they're going to go and do?
For spending, like, if you eat in Trastevere, like that's where you're getting €6 pizzas. It's like the local restaurants, and they're just unbelievable restaurants, and the food is class. Like budget wise, like you definitely, like you could probably get by in Rome if you're not in the tourist trap areas on like less than 100 a day. Like, and that's being, no, like I
That's
don't,
having a
maybe,
great time.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, like I think you could, like the drinks are so cheap. Like it was like €2 Peronis in Trastevere. Like that's such a good area that
On
like that's
drooling.
yeah, like
I
that's
wish
where
I could. I'm thinking. I wish I could take notes, but I can't spell what she's saying.
I need to send you it. So like Trast, yeah, for anyone listening,
uh,
it's like Trastevere or Ver, I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the very,
Um,
yeah.
like it's not, Rome isn't expensive if you go to the right places, I think. But you could go into like a tourist trap place then and pay like probably €14 for like a coffee, you know. So you can do it like cheaper. Like transport is easy to get around. It's not too expensive. It's, if you're getting a taxi from the airport, it's about €50 to the city centre. So that would be a bit of a cost, but you can get a bus if your flight times allow.
And
And accommodation would
train
probably
gets you.
be.
Yeah.
Oh,
try and
sorry,
get
what
you.
was that there?
There's a train in. That's
The
how
train.
I've got around Rowan as well. So it's
Yeah,
about €15 into the city centre as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
They have that over
And
Dublin as well.
so
Uh,
like I suppose you could end up spending like any city break, but I do think Rome is one of those cities where it is a bit cheaper if you're going to the right areas, so you could make it a bit cheaper for yourself. And accommodation could end up being a couple of hundred. I was lucky I had family, um, but yeah, obviously accommodation and flights added onto it. I think I got flights from Cork for about €200, which was really good. Um, but yeah, obviously that's going to add on to it. And then the actual race itself was, for me, it was €79 at the time. And they do like a Black Friday deal. I remember getting like emails saying like reduction. I think it was about down to €70. So they do seem to drop the price quite a bit. And they've started it now around €80 as the going price for next year right now.
yeah. So it will gain in popularity and the price will go
Yeah,
up to match
Mm.
it. And
100%.
it's good. And I suppose talking from your earlier points, it being a stop away from a metro line, obviously picking a hotel that's maybe two,
Yeah,
three, four stops outside the city will save you a bit, but at least you know you're
yeah,
only right away from the start
yeah.
line. So
100%, and that's where you could definitely save a bit. And the metro is so cheap and it's very reliable there, so it's definitely a great option.
So now that you've done Rome, would you go back or are you going to set your sights on a different destination?
So because I went like so aggressive this year with 3 marathons, right now I have none signed. I'm not signed up to any. Would I do Rome again? 100% I would. I'd actually like to go back and do it again. Um, but like if I was to look at like bucket list marathons for me would
Mm.
probably be like London, or I'd love to qualify for like Boston one day, and then I'd probably just never run a marathon again after that. Then I'd be done.
I can live. Now
Yeah.
there is a charity option for the likes of London. I just haven't told
Yeah.
Sean yet. But
Um,
There is actually, yeah. And actually, I forgot to say with Rome, there's, if you don't want to run a full marathon, there's a relay option that you can do with a team as well. So like you could do like 10K each, 4 people, and there's a fun run. So like it's a really good option if you want to go with a group. Like you could have some people who want to do a 5K, some people want to do a relay, and some people that want to do the full.
and it'd be
the,
really good, I suppose, for groups who are of different levels who
Yeah,
at Christmas are not like, I don't want to run a marathon, but a goal for
yeah,
them could be 5K, a goal for them could be a
yeah,
10.
mm.
exactly. That's
You
the
can all
beauty
get
of
a
running. Like,
Paddy's weekend trip away, into
yeah,
Rome. It keeps everyone focused on one target. It's a really, really good idea, really clever idea.
Is
yeah,
the
it's
relay the same route?
yeah, same route, and the relay points are kind of like really big popular spots for people to go to, because there's a like usually a big like balloon arch around, and like they're all waiting for their next person on their team to get there. So it's exact same route and bit of a buzz when you do pass them.
So those listen to the podcast is thinking that relay route. You've got
Wanna
your
start
in on
or
whether you want to
last?
start or last. You don't want to be in the
Yeah.
middle too.
How's that
Yeah, I
from
don't
sitting at home?
like. I don't know how those people, like, if you're in the middle, like, I don't know how they got back on time. Like,
You
they
have to
probably
keep
Yeah.
going.
and they wanted to walk the whole way back. Like, that's
Everyone else in the restaurant, they're walking back or
yeah,
stuck on buses trying to get in.
probably. I didn't even think of that. Oh my god.
I tell you, you'll just have to keep running, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would
You
run
just
with
have to keep going.
your teammate there.
Absolutely brilliant. And have you any tips, any last minute tips for anyone who is thinking, is there anything we haven't covered that you think people might need to consider? Like, we've had athletes around in Seville and people who are traveling and they're operating, but in terms of that, you've given great tips on just eat around, look around and enjoy it. Take in the sights. You are on a bus
Yeah.
tour. You've trained and now it's your time to see the city in a cool way. Some people listen. No, everyone listens. It's cool. Anyone who doesn't listen will think we're nuts. Have you any other last minute tips for people who are looking to do something like this? Because 3 marathons in 10 months
Yeah.
is a substantial amount of running, and you've gone from zero to that in a year. Like, overall, getting to that moment, have you any tips for anyone in the training element, the running
Yeah.
element, and then lastly for traveling abroad?
Yeah, so I suppose, like, when it comes to training, I just think be consistent and keep getting out there every week. And if you're tired, if you're having a day where you don't feel like getting out there, I think the best thing to do is don't go on the days where your body's just tired. Like, if you're like, I need a day off, like, take that day off and go out the next day instead. And just being consistent, I think, will get you through it on the day. Because, like, I know for me, when I was running, it was the first marathon I did where I kind of struggled from early on, where I was like, my body is just not in it today. Even though going into it I was as fit as I was for Dublin, it's just on the day it was different for me. And I think, actually, like, going out in the wind and rain in Ireland, going on those lonely long runs, like, they help you get through on the day, because you're used to it. You're used to pushing through the hard parts, and on the day, that's what gets you through. And for me, I think I remember about like 10K and just being like, Lana, like, let go of a time expectation here, just enjoy it. And that's what I did. Like, I started looking around me, I started thinking of all my family. I knew where everyone was going to be. It was Paddy's Day, so there was Irish people, so many Irish people running it, so many Irish people in the crowd, and that all really got me through it. I would say, because it was a bit hotter as well, something actually that was really good about this marathon was there was sponge stations, so like
Oh,
cold
yes.
water in sponges at about, like, definitely over 10 times across the route. And I took a sponge at every station. It was the best thing ever. And they had loads of
Unbelievable. Shove it
water.
down your top, on your neck.
Yeah, like, just
Oh,
literally
yeah.
squeezing it everywhere. It was brilliant. They were really, really good, and I would say take them. If it's hotter on the day, like, obviously you're going to a European city, so it could get hotter, like I experienced. So take on extra salts if you're someone like me who sweats, and take water when you can. And I would just say, like, for me, something I did during this marathon was I actually just stopped at the water stations and walked a couple of steps, because I knew myself I was kind of struggling, and that just really helped me. And just try and enjoy it, like, is the best advice I could give. Don't be, don't set yourself a time expectation unless that's something you really want. And just look around you and try and be present, because it's such a class city to run in that you won't be disappointed.
And that's great advice. And that whole being present in it is something we probably take for granted, when we were doing them. I know in Portugal, I can tell you where the hills were. I can't tell you what happened around them. I couldn't tell you
Yeah,
what scenery
yeah,
was there. I didn't care.
yeah.
Um,
That's so true.
but I
And
suppose in
that's
it,
normal as well, because, like, you could be just going through it in that point. You
yeah.
just want to get through it. You just want to finish that. Like, it's hard to look around and take it in. Like, I struggled at times during it to actually care that the Colosseum was in front of me. But
But what a place, what a feeling,
yeah,
and what a place by the sounds of it, and something that's definitely well worth doing. Sean is looking a little bit jealous.
I think I have sorted out my Paddy's Day next year.
yeah,
See, I grew up on the wrong side of the bar, like, so, like, I'm not used to having Paddy's Days off and stuff. So the last couple of years I
yeah,
haven't done, like, I don't do the parade kind of thing. This year I was away, but I wasn't near any parades or pubs or anything like that. So it was just a normal. It was just like, oh, I've got an extra day off now today and the next day. Like, but this, I'm very interested in this. So I was thinking
Yeah.
this or Barcelona, because Barcelona was on roughly around the same time. But the way it's Paddy's Day, you've got your day offs and stuff
Yeah.
around it.
You have a bank holiday as well. That's so true. Like if I know this year it fell so perfectly that like you actually had the Monday off, the race was the Sunday, it was Paddy's Day. It won't always fall like that, but like even just to stay there for Paddy's weekend, like there was some buzz in all the pubs and like probably better than Ireland look for it.
That's it. I think the best thing, it just seems like different places. I know we're getting off topic, but the different places around the world, you see, like Chicago has like the rivers of green and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Other places does Paddy's Day a lot better than us. We just go straight to the
Yeah.
pub and that's it. But
Like, yeah.
next year will fall on a Tuesday, which means you've got the whole weekend in Rome. You've got the it'll fall on Tuesday. No, it'll fall on Monday. I think it'll fall on
Fall
Monday,
on
won't
a
it?
Monday,
Yeah,
yeah.
because it's Sunday, because it's only 1 year, because it's not leap year. Yeah, so it'll fall on a Monday. So you really only need to take a Tuesday off for traveling, and you're back in Wednesday. So the
Yeah,
1 day
like
off, you
one
get the
day
full
annual
weekend
leave
away.
and yeah.
I've talked myself into this. The better half doesn't know it yet, but
Go
she's
off
going
and
to Rome
sign up
next
now.
year. She loves her Aperol spritz and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've seen you
oh.
finish too many other times, so she was just there. She texted me, "You finished yet? Where are you? Just save me a spot for food."
Yeah,
That'll be
the
it. Then.
dream holiday, like
Yeah.
win-win for both parties there.
And I'll be able to go around Rome and say, this spot here is pretty cool. This spot here is overrated. And that's it, because I get to see it all. And
Exactly.
a lot cheaper than getting a taxi around the place. I'm sold.
Yeah,
I'm sold
like
on
it's
Rome.
great value for money. Like you're literally getting a city pass for the day and running a marathon in one.
And you
So
get a free backpack for all my
yeah,
stuff
a
anyway.
free
So it's all
backpack.
free
Yeah,
backpack, me jazz. I'm sorted. This is
yeah,
brilliant.
Right, Sean.
This
great
is...
medal as well. Sold.
Alanna, we can't thank you enough for coming on. And we could go through that run and we could talk about every corner, but I suppose what we're trying to give everyone is the essence of what it's
Yeah.
like in Rome. And it is a historic run. It is a run around the city, like with so much history, so much to see, and so much you can do. And like you said, with a great group. But we are so delighted it went well for you. We're looking forward to seeing what you pick next. You may end up in Rome with us again. Well, you'll be back with Sean next year by the sounds of it. But we can't thank you enough for coming on and sharing your story. I know you started listening to the podcast a year ago before Cork, and now you're on the podcast telling everyone about what Rome is.
Yeah, so who knows? Anyone listening, you might be on it next. You might get roped in if you ask them two lads for advice.
Or give us €1 million. That's the way the game goes. But Alanna, we can't thank you enough for your time. We really appreciate you coming on. And so many people will appreciate the tips as they look for something to do for Paddy's weekend next year and a race away that keeps them training through the winter times. But thank you so much for your time and coming on.
No, thanks so much, lads. Really enjoyed it. So thanks for having me on.
And that's it for myself, Alanna, and Eric. Take care.